Okay, on this video I'm going to go through some different kinds of word sorts that you can make, and you will be using the book Words Their Way to look for ideas for your word sort activities. And here I'm just going to try to give you an explanation for when and how you would use some of these different activities. So you could start with your youngest children and you could do simple sorts by beginning sounds. You could also do sorts by middle sounds or ending sounds or rhyming words. Those are just a few of the things that you could do with some of your earliest readers. So the thing that you're going to start with are probably going to be a closed sort, and for those children who are not yet reading, you would be using pictures. So you might start, for example, with the letters and the sounds for B and M, and you would have pictures like banana, man, boat, and moon, and then the children would literally sort these pictures on the page to go under the column that said B or under the column that said M. So they would move the banana over to the B, move the man over to the M. One of the things that you need to think about when you're doing this kind of sort is that often children will have different names for the pictures. So, for example, if you had a picture of the moon and if it was round and yellow without any other context in the page, then children might think it was the sun or a ball, or especially you're doing a sort with B and M, so they see that as ball and they put it under B, and then you might mark it as incorrect when in fact if the child is interpreting that picture as a ball, then it would go there. So the same thing with boat. They may say, oh, a ship, or, if it's a really savvy child, maybe they're going to say a cruise ship, neither of which begins with a B or an M. So then they'll be confused, and they may just put it someplace just because they have to put it someplace. But you want to go through the pictures very carefully and get the child's interpretation and help them to see what word you are trying to convey with that picture. So that would be a closed sort. You could do the same thing with an open sort where you don't provide them the B or the M, but you give them the same pictures and you say sort this any way that you want. And so then they may begin to sort by ending sound, or you could say sort this by the beginning sound, but you don't tell them what the beginning sounds of the words are. So then they may end up with 3 columns where they have words that begin with an, like if they interpreted the boat as a ship. So they might have like a column that has an SH or something like that. But you want them to think about that sorting process. So then as they get a little more savvy and they're beginning to read some words, you can do something called a blind sort. So this is, you can try to see how well they're hearing the sounds in a consonant, vowel, consonant word. So here, what I've done is I have 2 different beginning letters. So we have words that begin with M or an M sound, and words that begin with C or a K sound. So again, this blind sort could be either open or closed. So I could give the children a paper that had an M at the top of one column and a C at the top of another column. And I might even talk to them about the fact that a C could say both a K and a S sound, but in this activity all of the C words say a K sound. So then you call the words out to them. So I say man, and the child writes the whole word under the M or the M sound. And then I say cat, and the child writes the word. Now, what I've done is I've mostly used A, short A, so we have man, cat, can, mat, mit, but then I changed it to I, and here it's you. So you can do a couple of things. You can identify beginning and ending sounds. Are they identifying those as they spell them? And then you might find that they're doing really well with these short A sounds. So I'm going to throw in something a little, mix it up a little. So I have the word mit, and just that is an unusual one because it has two T's at the end, and you could just give them that. If they write MIT, you can just say, well, that word really has one more T. It's going to try to fool us. So as they get older, you're going to do more blind sorts if you're looking for spelling patterns. And then here's a way that you can do a little bit different. So this one, we're not going to do a blind sort. It's going to be an open sort. And what you want them to do is to make these words plural. So we have baby, and when we make baby plural, it's IES, cell. So this is work that the students would be doing. As a group, and you might have these words on the board, and the students come up one at a time, and they would write the plural of these words. So they might say to you, well, I only have one daddy. But you could say, well, in our classroom then we have 30 daddies or 25 daddies or something like that. So daddy can be made plural. Then what you want the students to do, once all of these words have been made plural and they've been spelled correctly, so you are going to help them with that if they have any problems, then they're going to put them into categories. So that's why it's an open sort. You don't tell them what the categories are. But what you're really looking for are words that you just add S. So that would be these words that I'm going to highlight. That would be one category, because when I make these words plural, I just add S. And then there are words that you add ES to, and you see I only have one of those, but if you were doing this with a classroom, you would have other words like box, boxes, mess, messes, there's just tons of them that you can think of. And then finally, we have the words that end with Y, and the Y changes to I, and you add ES. So I messed up here because this is supposed to be yellow. So we'll change that back. Okay, so we have 3 different categories, and even within those categories, you could say, well, the words that you just add S to, sometimes it ends with a consonant and sometimes it ends with Y. And we need to think about, why do these words that end with Y drop the Y and add IES, and these words that end with Y just add S? So those are all things that then you can talk about as the students are making these categories. Again, if you have multiple words that add ES, like any word that ends with S or X, what are the other ones? A CH, an SH, and Z, you all add ES. So buzzes, beaches, all of those words. So you have some of those words in all of those categories, and then you look at them and say, why did we add ES? And what are the letters that are going to clue us into adding that ES? And then why did we drop the Y and add IES? And how do we know we're going to do that? Because sometimes with the Y we do it, like in daddy, and sometimes with a Y we don't, like in day. So those are all conversations, and this kind of word sort might take a few days in the classroom, and then what you want to do is have the kids look for other words. Like, we didn't have beach on there, but maybe somebody finds that word beach and adds it to our list of words that you add ES to. And so those charts would become kind of organic within the classroom and would grow. Okay, so here we have an example of something that you can do that's both an open and a blind sort. And again, you might give them a piece of paper and you say, there's going to be two different spellings of the sound that the words that I'm going to call out to you. And I want you to make two columns for those two different spellings, but you don't tell them what the spelling is. So as you begin to call the words, light, hopefully light is one that many kids are familiar with and they can put that into the right column. As you go around the room, if they're spelling the word incorrectly, you want to correct them as they do it. So you can say, oh, that one is spelled IGHT. And you might, stop and make sure everybody has spelled it correctly. And then you give the next word, fight, so that would go in the same column. And then the word right. So now we have the new spelling. So again, you try to start with words when you're doing this open sort with words that they know how to spell, or that the majority of your class might know how to spell. Then you get into some harder ones like cite, when I'm citing something within a paper, and blight would not be as common. And so then they might have to guess. And again, after each word, you're going to stop and make sure they get it into the right column. So that would be a way that you could use that kind of word sort. So as they get older, they're going to be more sophisticated, and your strategies are going to be more sophisticated, and you'll spend more time talking about what it is that they're doing.